Welcome everyone. This is Samarah Grace and today is 12/12 of 2021. So welcome to the monthly broadcast that includes a hello from me, Samarah, and also a message from Mother Mary. Today is a very beautiful, special day because I was remembering that in 12/12 of 12, so 9 years ago, I was in Kauai, as I often am whenever I can get to the islands. But what happened on that day seems to also have a connection to today. So I wanted to just take us back there for a moment, especially because some more people are coming on and it'll take a minute anyway. So it's 12/12 of 12 and I'm on Kauai. And several of us were sitting on the hillside in Princeville of Kauai, which is kind of up on a ledge kind of thing, looking down at the water and enjoying a glass of wine. And we were celebrating, the beauty of Kauai and just the joy of being with friends. And all of a sudden there was this rumbling in the air. That's the only way now to describe it. It wasn't raining, but there was a rumbling in the air. And lightning began to strike, even though there was no visible rain or anything like that. But there was a sort of an energetic thing that happened. And from the white puffy clouds that were not like rain clouds, there was a peal of thunder and then a lightning, but instead of striking sort of around, it hit the water. And as it hit the water, up from the water came like a whirlpool of color, like a rainbow of color. And all of us were, I wasn't by myself, otherwise I might have thought I was crazy, which does happen from time to time. But this melody of color kept happening and happening. So there would be, and up would come this rainbow of light. And so we just watched it mesmerized for, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then afterwards we just sat and did a little Ho'oponopono gratitude. And then I asked Mother Mary, what was that? She said, it's the rainbow codes. I was like, the rainbow codes, what does that mean? She said, over the coming decade, and so now we're almost there, it'll be 10 years, a year from today. Over the coming years, you're going to learn that all of you belong to one nation. It's not the United States, it's not a country. You all belong to one nation. You are all made of many colors, but there is one color for all of you. So you're in the rainbow. And as I was thinking about our offering today and just coming together today, I thought about that rainbow day and how excited and happy we all were, and how, of course, at that time we thought, oh, then everything's going to happen, just beautifully and quickly, and there'll be kindness and generosity and compassion. Yeah, I know I can be a bit of a Pollyanna, but at any rate, I wanted to bring that energy back to our broadcast today, that idea that the angels and heaven and Allah and Buddha and Mary and God are bringing us literally the energetic codes to remember that we are really all one people, all one people, all one earth, all, one family, if we could only learn to get along. And so when I thought about, today and what could I bring and what could I offer, the most exciting thing has been the publication of my book about my stroll down memory lane with Mother Mary for the last 20 some years. And it's called Will You Be With Me, which was her first invitation to me all those years ago. But really, it's an invitation to all of us. She's not saying, oh, I'm only talking to Samarah here. No. Will you, meaning all of us, be with her, be with the angels, be with the light, be with that frequency of love, that she brings. And so today I want to talk about what keeps us from that generosity, that compassion, that love. Kind of where did we go wrong? What happened along the way? already done so. If you'd mute yourself, there's a little bit of feedback coming in. I appreciate that. Thank you. So I asked Mother Mary, and I'm going to bring her through in just a moment, but what she said was that some of us came in perfect, right? Perfect, pure, beautiful light with a little soul contract, all wrapped up like a stork bundle coming in. And we were ready to bring that joy, that compassion, that love, that oneness throughout to everybody, right? But sometime in our childhood, something or sometimes a series of things happened to make us doubt our potential, to make us not believe in our own capacity to be that. And before I bring her in, I just wanted to share something that's also in the book, because as part of my story of how I came to really enjoy being a channel and really I sort of take great pleasure in bringing through something this beautiful. But I share an incident from my childhood that maybe you can relate to. Because growing up, I had an older brother who had polio. And when he got polio, he stuttered and he had to walk with braces, and the other kids were merciless, and it was really a very, very cruel and tough time for him. And I was the only one, even though I was littler and younger, I was the only one that could understand what he wanted. And so I became his translator. And, he would yabba, 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 and I'd say, Mom, he needs a sandwich, or, whatever. And so I got lots of, accolades for that, for being a channel. But meanwhile, what I loved, what I wanted to do was dance. And so there was a period in my early childhood, I was probably 5 or 6 years old, when I actually got to take dance lessons, and I mastered this tap routine. And it was to the Good Ship Lollipop, right? Little Shirley Temple. And so I got on my costume and I tied my shoes and I got my little 45 record and I put it on. And I came out to the living room calling, Mommy, Daddy, watch, look at me. And I came in doing my little tap dance, all proud and happy to do something that was just me. It wasn't taking care of my brother. Well, about 3 bars into my dance, my mom grabbed my arm and pulled me in the other room. And she said, how could you do that? How could you do that in front of your brother? He can't hardly even walk, and you come in here dancing? I'm ashamed of you. Go change clothes. Now, I'm not telling the story to find fault with my mom or my brother for that matter. I'm telling the story because in that moment, my belief system became, if I do something just for me, for the joy of it, I'm causing pain to somebody else. So it took a long time to come out of that. And it also meant that I pretty much didn't dance after that. So what I'm talking about, though, is how can we go back to that old story and forgive, I've forgiven my mom and all of them a long time ago, but how can we be the dancer or the singer or the artist or the author or, whatever we want to do? I believe we have to go back and heal whatever that experience was that led us to believe that our shining would in some way hurt or disparage someone else. And so I'm here to offer that as a sort of touchstone for each of us today to look ahead to next year and be able to dance, sing, in my case, author my book, and let it be a sort of a year, not so much of pain like this past year has been for so many, or disparaging or pointing fingers or whatever, but how can we create the world we want to see? I believe we first have to be the person we're meant to be. So that's my little sharing. Well, looks like we got quite a few people on, so I'm going to take a moment now and bring through Mother Mary while you're thinking about your childhood and whatever you didn't get to do at that time. Well, so hello, everyone. Hello, hello. I think what I want to capture for each of you is that this time of end of December into next year is all about calibration. Calibration. How will you calibrate your life? And Samarah was just telling that lovely story about how her calibration was affected by such a strong and difficult message when she was just a little one. And so for each of you now, the challenge is to realize whatever happened or didn't happen when you were a child, you're grown up now, and you have the capacity, you truly have the capacity to be able to take your own assessment of what do you need to calibrate to the highest potential of you. What do you need to calibrate to the highest potential of you? Now, our lovely Gloria has just gotten on. Hello, Gloria. And I want to mention something because it's such good timing, Gloria. Samarah just told a story about her mother. And although it is not wise to always do comparison, at that time, Samarah held the belief that to do something, she had to kind of hold back. And so for years now, she's been telling me she's going to finish the book about what we've been doing. But she needed you, Gloria. She needed you. Because in that moment, you believed more in her than she did in herself in terms of her capacity as an author. So thank you. And by the way, Gloria is a wonderful birther of stories if you have any desire or need to birth your story. But it was that calibration that allowed Samarah, and it sort of gave her the impetus, of course you can, of course you can, of course you can. And so to recalibrate yourself, it's like, what do you need that would be your oomph, your, of course you can, of course you can. And often it's just to give yourself permission, and that's fine. You don't always need someone else, as lovely as that can be, to have a cheerleader, to have someone who says, of course you can. How wonderful. Because the idea of 2021, the calibration of 2021 has basically been what I lovingly called a few years ago, Neverland. And so time and time again in 2021, you had, oh, this doesn't happen. This never happens. This has never happened before. Boom, 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 boom. Although, yes, you had a pandemic 100 years ago, you've never had one cascade the way that this one has. So 2021 has been Neverland. Never, 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 never. Oh, it could never happen, never happen, never happen, never happen. But each thing was dismantled. All those nevers were dismantled. And so coming into 2022, it can be what I would call the promised land. That's pretty exciting. So it rests on what are you promising yourself? And how are you keeping that promise? Who do you have in your life perhaps that can buoy you, remind you that of course you can, offer ideas or suggestions, etc., or simply your own courage to continue? Because many of you I know aren't quite ready for what can be, but what can be is whatever you choose to promise yourself for 2022. And the idea, and the reason I'm glad Samarah told that story, is the idea not to harness yourself by the past, to not sort of keep yourself in some sort of prison of the past, to not feel like, well, it didn't happen, it couldn't happen, etc. Because all those bets are off. And the only thing that is true for 2022 is you will create what you allow. You will create what you allow. I'll say it the third time. You will create what you allow. And so that's really the question. What will you allow? And so to reflect on any old belief systems, any old ideas, habits, patterns, that's a good thing to do. And there are two reminders. As you're sort of dreaming for these next few weeks before you hit into 2022, if there's something that makes you cry, look at it. Take a look at it and go deeper into that. And we'll use Samarah as an example since she's already talked about it. So she's been watching from time to time these shows, you know, like The Voice and American Idol, and So You Think You Can Dance, and these competitions. And she was questioning herself, you know, it's sort of like, why am I fascinated with these shows? And sometimes she would even literally cry over certain competitors. But it wasn't the competitor. It was the family cheering their own. And that's what made her cry. Watching the families holding up signs, yes, yes, yay, yes, you can do it, yay, yay. Because that was not her experience. And yet here we are on Zoom, looking at all of you, see? And you're cheering her on. So it isn't that you can't create something different. It's that when something like that makes you cry, you take a look and realize, what did I miss, or what am I still missing? And how could I shift that potentially? So tears have value in that way. The other thing, strangely enough, that can also remind you of something is jealousy. People say, oh, don't be jealous, don't be jealous. And I don't want you to stay in jealousy. But when you have it come up, when you look at someone and you have that aspect of jealousy come up, now it's time to go inside and say, well, if they can do it, why couldn't I? So whether that's about writing a book or singing on Broadway or whatever it is, to recognize and realize jealousy shows me what I think I don't have. And so then you recalibrate and say, well, how could I create something for myself close to what is making me jealous in this moment? So these next several weeks are really very valuable in looking back to the past, to whatever happened that caused you to believe you were somehow overlooked when it came to talent or joy or compassion or whatever. Also to look at what makes you either jealous or sad or hurt or touched, and say, okay, what is my dream? What is my dream for 2022? For myself, and now here's the part that's so important. Your dream must not exclude any group. You are all one. So your dream and your success and your creation must not be at the expense of someone else. Now, does that mean if someone doesn't want you to do it, you shouldn't do it? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a sense that when you shine, it holds the light for everyone. And so certainly sometimes people are uncomfortable that you want to do this, but you've never wanted to do that. And you can say, well, never was 2021. 2022 is all about the promised land. And so it's to really just reconfigure and realize it's all back to that place of creation, to that place of possibility, to that place where I can do whatever is mine to do, And you all came in with sort of that wonderful sovereign soul agreement, right? Sovereign soul agreement. Like, what do I want to do on earth so that when my time is done, when I finally, it's my time to leave, I look back and I say, good job. Good job. I did what I came to do. And sometimes that's just being a light. Sometimes it's writing or dancing or doing these other things. But it's really a sense that I'm where I'm meant to be, doing what I'm meant to do, living the life that is mine. And I'm joyous about that. And so it's not exclusionary, but it's also sovereign, meaning you're the one that's the boss. You're the one that's in charge of yourself and your energy. And so whatever anyone else is doing, smile and wave. Don't let that keep you from your own joyous expression. Don't let that keep you from what's possible for you. Be you, be you, be you. So Samarah mentioned something about, what happened on 12/12/12 when the rainbow codes were delivered to Kauai. Why were they delivered to Kauai? Well, in ancient times, and I'm going to sort of weave the story a little bit, which may or may not be exactly how you've heard it before. In ancient times, there was a group called the Lemurians. And many people believe that the Hawaiian Islands still hold the energy of the Lemurians, right? And the Lemurians were all about love. They had no understanding of power. They were all about love. They communicated telepathically. They took care of each other. The closest thing I could tell you today is take a look at a pod of dolphins and you get a feeling about Lemuria. So these rainbow codes were delivered again to the Hawaiian Islands to remind and remember and sort of allow them to be dispersed throughout that energy that at one time was sort of what you could call the lap of love, the Moria. Meanwhile, beginning in about a week, you're going to start to see things happening on the eastern side, in the areas where it is rumored, at least, that the Atlantean civilization existed, more like towards Bimini and in that area, in the Atlantic. And what you'll see and feel might not always be the lap of love, because the Atlanteans were quite entranced with power and how to use power in various ways, not always considered love. And so their new codes often appear like tornadoes, like you just saw coming through most of the middle of the US. And again, this is not a punishment. It is all about the distortion of power that still exists in the world and how that is reflected energetically. And so the lap of love must meet the promise of the promised land. And so the awakening of the promise is the awakening in each of you and all people, that you are not separate, that you are not Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you are not this or that, you're not an American or an Italian or something else. That might be where you live or how you grew up, but it is not who you are as a being. And so this soul dream, if you will, this soul promise that each of you came in with, as it's restored and as you then operate from that, as you take the actions that correspond to that, the love that is here for you meets the power of you and begins to create whatever you have promised yourself. And so it's a very, very beautiful, exciting time coming into 2022, where there will still be chaos, there will still be argument, there will still be all of that. But you can be sovereign. You can be the one who holds a light and operates in that equanimity, in that love, in that compassion. And so there are right now thousands of you. There are thousands of you. So don't worry that it's all on your shoulders. But in another way, it is on your shoulders, because we need all of you. We need all of you to make the promise for yourself for 2022 and beyond that honors who you are as a soul, that honors who you are as a soul, and then operate from that. Many people have asked me, when's it going to end? Well, I can promise you, I've been coming for over 2,000 years and it's not over yet. So, so there you are. So I don't want you to think in that way, because it's self-defeating. Realize, however old you are today, you'll have so much more time, however much that happens to be, that's part of your soul agreement. And the question really is, how then do I want to live? How do I want to share? Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And there are so many beautiful ways to share your light. But go back to your childhood and remember, in your finest hours, what did you love to do? And do some of that. Do some of that, because what it's going to do is ground that love into activities and joy that you then bring in whatever ways you're guided to do. One of the affirmations that I think is helpful is that you were born of soul fire. I was born of soul fire. And now I choose to find the fuel for my fire. So the soul fire is always there, but sometimes the fuel got a little low. So now in your hours and days ahead, gather the fuel that you need. Burn your fire brightly. If it's music, if it's nature, if it's friendship, if it's hiking the mountain, as Danae does so often, whatever it is, do that. Do that. Do it freely. Do it joyously. Do it lovingly. Because what you're doing is fueling the soul fire that you then can share and offer in whatever ways work for you. In our book that Samarah and I just finished, called Will You Be With Me, which I hope you all get, there are 7 gateways. And again, this is just a simpler way of understanding the ever-evolving life that you're all in. But the first gateway is called awakening. And you might think, well, I'm old, I'm this old, I've already awakened. No, it's a spiral dance. So in 2021, there was all of these fragments that fell away. And 2022 is about awakening again, but now to the promise of your heart and your soul and the possibilities. And those are endless. You are not hampered in any way. So promise yourselves, 2022, I choose to be and live in my promised land and offer that in whatever ways. So for today, I'm going to stop. Those of you that are on the call, we're going to, in a moment, stop the video. Those of you that weren't on the call, next time you better tune in because you're going to miss all the questions and answers. But here's what I want to say. 2021 was a destabilizing year. It was a neverland. Let 2022 be your promised land because you're keeping the promise that your soul has made. So, signing off for now. This is Mother Mary. The book is called Will You Be With Me by Samarah Grace, and we hope that you enjoy it.